Hi, friends. This is Chaplain Brad Cattleman, and this is episode 2 of The Trust. Today, we had a different theme planned, but in light of the recent loss of 2 members of our team, I think it's important we talk about grief today. And so while it has been just over a week, this is still an acute loss for their friends and their family. And so I'd encourage you to keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Let's get going. You're listening to The Trust, the podcast of the SDDC Unit Ministry team. I'm your host, Brad Cattleman, and we are glad you have joined us today. I hope this energizes you, edifies you, and may you experience God's blessings. Hi, friends. Today we're going to talk about grief. I know, emotions. Yuck, right? Especially grief. I get it. It's a lot easier to talk about the happy emotions like love and serenity and joy, and it is a lot harder to talk about grief. Frankly, it's a lot harder to deal with grief. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It makes it hard to fall asleep at night. It distracts you during the day. It catches you by surprise at meetings. It messes with your life, but it's real. And so that's why we're going to talk about it. It's real when you experience a loss. When you don't get the promotion, the assignment, the award. It's real when you lose out on something. And it's most definitely real when you know someone who has died. And that's the grief I really want to talk about. Where do we go with our grief? Someone once told me that Christians ought to be the happiest people on earth. We have nothing to be sad about because we have Christ. Well, that may be partially true, but it's not real. Sadness and grief are a part of life. And you know what? It is okay. Even Jesus experienced sadness. You can read about it in John chapter 11. After Jesus' good friend Lazarus has died, he hears about it, and he goes to visit Mary and Martha, Lazarus' sisters.
When Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep.
Jesus began to weep. Grief is okay, but there's more. Jesus went on to raise Lazarus from the dead. So now we know it's even more okay to cry because Jesus knew that he was about to raise his friend from the dead, but he still wept. If Jesus can cry, then it's okay for me and it's okay for you. But there's more. We cannot just be stuck with grief. Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians tells us how to grieve. Here's 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13.
"We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about those who have died, so that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope."
You see, we don't grieve as those without hope. We grieve as those with hope, because when we are in Christ, we know that grief isn't the end. Even in grief, we have hope. Paul doesn't dismiss grief. He doesn't say we will not experience grief, but he does say, grieve with hope. Sorrow is painful. Grief is painful, but the separation is temporary. And so, friends, when you find yourself in the midst of grief, I want to applaud you for feeling deeply. I want to encourage you as you work through it, but I want you to remember to grieve with hope. Grieve as someone who knows God. Grieve as someone who believes in something greater. Grieve as someone who has hope, knowing that this isn't it, and we'll be together again. This has been episode 2 of The Trust. Folks to thank this week, of course, the public affairs team for helping me get this out there and getting the word out. Christine McNulty for helping me with the portal permissions to make this happen. John Arell, thanks again for continuing to provide your voice for reading the Bible. Thanks to all of you. We are trusted professionals delivering readiness, but don't forget to trust the Lord with all your heart. This is Brad Cattleman, chaplain for the SDDC. God bless you all.